Germany, final warning for Gemini, May 17th to 19th. One mistake could cost you everything. Welcome to Buddhist Daily Wisdom. If you are hearing these words, it is not by chance. It is not the algorithm. It is because something beyond language and logic is whispering to you. And if you are a Gemini, born under the sign of air, of intellect, of endless words and thoughts, then this is not just a video. This is an energetic signal, sent to the right soul at the right time. From May 17th to 19th, a convergence of destiny is opening. It may feel as gentle as a breeze, but beneath it are swirling currents that could pull you into a choice that leads you away from your true self. In astrology, this is the moment when the Sun in Gemini opposes the full moon in Sagittarius, and Mercury, your ruling planet, is veiled by Neptune. This means that your intellect, the very thing you trust the most, is now covered by a layer of fog. And the danger does not lie in what you do not know. It lies in what you think you know. You will feel the urge to act quickly, to decide, to break free, to speak the truth, to cut something off so you can start again. But are you sure that what you want to leave behind isn't a lesson still unfolding? That what you believe is clarity isn't just a reaction from a scattered mind rather than from a peaceful soul? Gemini, you are the child of the wind, and the wind never stays still. But because of that, you often don't pause long enough to recognize the difference between a true breeze and a false one. In these 3 days, if you don't know how to come back to yourself, if you don't place your hand on your heart and ask, where am I choosing this from, wisdom or fear, then you may step into a decision that could take you months, even years, to return from. Nostradamus once wrote a deeply symbolic line in a hidden prophecy: the twin who moves before the silence shall not see the dawn. Gemini, you do not need to know everything. You only need to know when to stop. Because your mistakes do not come from a lack of information. They come from mental noise. Too many options, too much input, too many feelings that were never fully heard but were labeled as logic. And if you are still here, still listening, not with your ears, but with something deeper, then I invite you to do one small thing. One thing powerful enough to shift the course of your fate. Right now, click subscribe to the Buddhist Daily Wisdom channel. Not to watch more videos, but to send an invisible commitment into the universe. I choose to pause. I choose awareness. I choose to listen before I act. And if you wish to connect with other Gemini souls who are walking through the same moment, leave a comment below, not for attention, but as an energetic ritual of awakening. I choose stillness before I decide. Because the moment you pause, the moment you stop chasing answers and return to the real question, you are no longer a fragmented Gemini. You become a united Gemini, where two opposing thoughts merge into one clear beam of light, wisdom. From May 17th to 19th, you do not need to act. You only need to observe. And if you can stay still while your mind begs for movement, you will witness the miracle. Things will transform without needing to be broken. Because Gemini no longer needs to run. You only need to return to your own vertical axis, where the wind does not sweep you away but lifts you higher. The door is open. The universe is waiting. And you've already felt it, haven't you? Part 1. The dangerous energies of May 17th to 19th for Gemini. Some days pass gently, like a breeze. And there are days that seem just as light, but inside, they hold an invisible cyclone. For Gemini, the 3 days from May 17th to 19th are exactly that. There are no clear signs. No one is shouting, be careful. No visible storm in finances or relationships. But underneath, in the deepest layers of thought and intuition, something is being tested. Subtly trembling. And if you don't pause to listen, you'll think everything is fine, while your destiny quietly drifts away from the axis you once chose. Because you are Gemini. You're always moving. You live in the realm of air, where everything shifts constantly, where your soul stays open, to receive, to explore, to explain, to connect. But Gemini also carries a quiet pain, too many voices in your head, yet none quiet enough for you to truly hear yourself. And it's precisely when you think you know that you're most vulnerable to the trap of a mind clouded by noise. From an astrological perspective, the Sun is currently in your sign, Gemini, in direct opposition to the full moon in Sagittarius. The Sun represents ego, the light of who I am. The full moon is emotion, the opposing shadow, the revelation of what you haven't yet faced. When these two celestial bodies pull against each other, you may fall into self-doubt, all while believing you're crystal clear. You might make a decision thinking it's the right one, only to later ask, why did I do that? But it doesn't stop there. Mercury, your ruling planet, is under the influence of Neptune. And Neptune represents illusion, fantasy, that hazy zone between intuition and imagination. During this period, you'll be highly susceptible to being drawn in by things that seem meaningful, full of inspiration, but are in truth veils masking what's real. An exciting opportunity. A tempting invitation. Someone who feels like destiny. A sensation of, if I don't do this now, I'll regret it forever. But Gemini, if something urges you to act in haste, it's likely not true light. It's an artificial flame, lit by a mind panicking in the absence of stillness. Buddha taught that there is nothing more dangerous than a mind trying to decide before it has settled. And for Gemini, who can have hundreds of thoughts racing in a single moment, stillness is not just a feeling. It is a state that must be practiced. Because only when you are truly still can you discern real intuition from the voice of fear dressed up as logic. These 3 days may challenge you in 3 ways: too many choices, too quick to react, too many expectations from others pulling you to act from obligation, not from your true heart. You may feel pulled in every direction, by emails, messages, promises, deadlines, all the urgent things to do. And you'll want to handle them fast, just to feel like you're back in control. But if you act from the fear of falling behind, you'll trigger a chain of wrong decisions, setting off a domino effect that doesn't stop. And just days later, you'll find yourself asking, how did I end up here? When did I veer so far from myself? In one of Nostradamus's lesser-known prophecies, a line written in Old Latin roughly translates to, "The twin who laughs when choosing shall find a hidden dead end behind the smile." This line has long sparked debate. But when seen through Gemini energy, it carries a deep truth. Sometimes you choose something simply because you can, not because your soul truly wants it. And this confusion between ability and inner alignment is what pulls you away from what your spirit actually longs for. And if you're thinking, I'll notice if I'm wrong, that's precisely the danger. Because during these 3 days, mistakes won't come through clarity, they'll be born in the gray areas. Between right and wrong. Between, should I hold on to this relationship, or should I release it to heal? Between, should I accept this offer, or should I wait until my emotions are clear? Between, should I speak my truth, or should I pause and listen more? These hazy zones, if you choose wrong, won't destroy you instantly. But they'll slowly wear you down, bit by bit, forcing you to constantly put out fires caused by your own decisions. So Gemini, in these 3 days, you don't need more knowledge. You just need more awareness. And awareness doesn't come from understanding more. It comes from stopping at the right time, becoming still in the right place, and asking the right question. I invite you, if you felt the resonance of this message, click subscribe to the Buddhist Daily Wisdom channel. Not for the channel's sake, but for yours. As a sign you leave for your future self, I paused at the right time. I didn't let the noise choose for me. And if you want to seal this moment with the universe, leave a comment below the video. I pause. I listen. I trust what's quiet. Because when you do that, you choose Gemini's deeper path, not just being a transmitter of information, but a transformer of it into wisdom. Part 2, one mistake could cost you everything. For Gemini, during the days of May 17th to 19th, one of the most dangerous illusions you can fall into is the thought, I've figured it out. I can handle this. I'll rebalance myself after I do this one thing. But Gemini, take a breath. Slow down. Because during these 3 days, even a single decision, if made from a restless state of mind, could steer you into a timeline that no longer reflects your true self. Mistakes during this period do not arrive with explosions. They come wrapped in perfectly reasonable logic. Choices disguised as smart, mature, even destined. A golden opportunity. Or that whisper of, I have a gut feeling about this. But the problem is, intuition cannot emerge when your mind is still spinning in chaos. And many Geminis have nodded to things that didn't belong to them, simply because in that moment they thought they were clear, when in truth, they were just running away from stillness. As a Gemini, you live in the stream of information. You process, analyze, compare. But when you use too much logic to avoid a feeling you haven't yet faced, you're more likely to choose wrong. Not because you aren't intelligent, but because you aren't being honest about what's really happening inside. Say you're in a vague relationship. The other person doesn't outright hurt you, but you never feel fully safe. You think, I shouldn't make a big deal out of this, so you stay. Then these 3 days come, and you decide to give it another chance, because you're afraid of ending things. But in that moment, you're not just continuing a relationship. You're re-signing a contract with an older version of yourself. And your soul, knowing this no longer fits, begins to retreat. Then you find yourself less inspired. You stop writing. You lose the spark. At work, everything seems fine, but inside, you begin to wither. Or maybe you're facing a career decision, a new project, an investment offer, a big change. You analyze the risks, ask for opinions, double-check the spreadsheets. Everything seems logical. But something inside you still hesitates. And you think, maybe I'm just afraid of change. So you sign. But 3 months later, you realize you've entered a space that no longer resonates. You start feeling drained, disconnected, lost. And you wonder, why didn't I listen to that part of me? Gemini, your mind is your greatest asset. But it's also where you're most prone to trap yourself. Because you are excellent at reasoning, you can talk yourself into believing everything's okay, even when your heart is quietly breaking. You can rationalize toxic dynamics, misaligned people, wrong opportunities, just to avoid facing the truth, that you don't actually know what you want. In astrology, these 3 days are a pivot point between logic and inner knowing. The sun beams directly onto the Gemini ego. The full moon in Sagittarius awakens the urge to understand, to expand, to seek meaning. And Mercury, under Neptune's haze, makes all intuition feel foggy, distorted, unreliable. This is the time when you're likely to choose what seems smart, but is actually a dream. And the scariest part? You won't realize it right away. You'll just start to feel lost. Nostradamus once wrote a prophecy, intended for the one with 2 faces, the twin shall speak with confidence, but the voice shall not be their own. That is the Gemini danger, not confusion, but false clarity. Not doubt, but confidence rooted in illusion. When you choose without enough clarity, you're not really choosing, a different part of you is. Maybe it's the ego. Maybe it's a wound. Maybe it's an unhealed emotion choosing for you. And by the time you hear your real voice again, things may have already gone too far. Buddha said, even a small decision born of ignorance plants a seed of rebirth. No one loses everything overnight, but people begin to lose themselves through small decisions made without pausing long enough to ask, where am I acting from? And if you're still here, if you feel something rising within you, something quiet, but unmistakably clear, then I invite you, pause, breathe, and do nothing. At least for these 3 days. Unless you've truly heard your inner voice. Because action that doesn't come from peace is action you'll have to fix later. And Gemini, you don't need to keep fixing. You just need to choose correctly from the start. If you're facing an important decision, about work, love, a project, an invitation, I invite you to write this question in your journal. Am I choosing this to run away from something? Then let it sit. Don't answer immediately. Don't make a decision just to escape discomfort. Because discomfort is the alarm bell of the soul. Let it ring. Listen. And if you feel this message resonates, I invite you to click subscribe to Buddhist Daily Wisdom. Not as a small action, but as an energetic ritual you send out into the universe. I choose not to rush. I choose to be awake. I choose truth, even when it's uncomfortable. Leave a comment beneath the video. I choose truth, not speed. I wait until I'm whole. Because when you write that, you're opening the right door. It doesn't matter where you are on your journey. What matters is that you're walking with awareness, no longer letting reaction lead the way. Gemini, one mistake can change everything. But one moment of stillness, at the right time, can save your entire destiny. And today, you are standing in that moment. Part 3, How to protect your energy during these days. Not all storms come from the outside. Some arise from deep within the mind, when you're standing at too many crossroads, hearing too many voices, absorbing too much information, and you have no anchor point to return to. And Gemini, from May 17th to 19th, if you don't know how to protect your energy properly, you won't realize what's real and what only feels real, not until everything has drifted too far. You live by your intellect. But intellect cannot shine if your energy is scattered by distraction. Intellect cannot decide clearly if it is being pulled by emotions you haven't acknowledged. And intellect, no matter how sharp, becomes dangerous when it is operating in a body disconnected from the heart. So, how can Gemini hold steady during these turbulent days? How do you stop your mind from leading you astray? How do you stop unprocessed emotions from silently steering your hand into the wrong choice? I invite you to begin with the first ritual, the anchoring of the mind to a single word. Each morning, before you touch your phone, before you reply to anything, before you react to the world, sit down for just 5 minutes. Close your eyes. Inhale deeply and think the word clarity. Exhale and think the word simplicity. Repeat 5 times in your mind. You don't need to force deep meditation. You just need a simple word to reconnect the fragments of a scattered mind. This isn't meditation, it's a mental reset. And if you're a Gemini, you need this daily. Not as a luxury, but as a survival ritual. Next, open your journal. Not to list to-dos, but to write down just one thing you truly want to move toward that day. One task. One state. One feeling. Not 3. Not 7. No multi-goal juggling. Because for you, energy is only strong when it is focused. If you enter your day facing 5 directions at once, you'll no longer be able to tell the difference between your soul's calling and your ego's urgency. And between May 17th to 19th, even a few degrees off course can lead you far from yourself. By midday, when you feel your mind racing faster than your breath, stop. You don't need anything elaborate. Just step outside if you can. Or sit still and place your hand on your chest. Ask yourself one simple question: am I reacting, or am I choosing? That one question, asked in stillness, is enough to pull you out of reflex. And sometimes, that brief pause saves you from a sentence, a decision, a reply you'd otherwise spend weeks trying to undo. Buddha taught, when the mind is not still, all actions become karma. And Gemini, you have the power to generate karma through words, through ideas, through thoughts, faster than any other sign. Because you're fast. Because you're sharp. But also because of that, you need stillness more than anyone. If you're facing a choice during these 3 days, a job decision, a partnership offer, a confession, an investment, a message you want to send, do not act on it if your mind hasn't fully settled. Write it down. Let it sit. Revisit it after 24 hours. If tomorrow, you still want to do it, go ahead. But if your emotions have shifted, if your intent no longer feels clear, then you've already sidestepped a karmic detour. In the evening, I invite you to perform a simple yet powerful ritual, the untangling of energy before sleep. You don't need incense or candles, just a space without electronics. Sit or lie down. Hands on your belly. Eyes closed. And for the final 5 minutes of your day, review all the emotions you experienced, but without judgment. Just observe the irritation from that email, the rush of praise, the fear of missing out, the regret. Let them show up. Don't push them away. Don't fix them. Just know you saw them. Because only when you see these emotions clearly, they won't hide in your decisions. Tomorrow, you may place a gemstone by your bed. Labradorite is a perfect choice for Gemini during this phase. It is a stone of inner light, of intuition filtered through intellect. Place your hand on it or just lightly touch it and whisper, I don't need to know everything. I only need to know what's true. Do this each night before sleep, and you'll begin reconnecting with the internal compass that got lost between too many reasons. And if you truly feel illuminated, I invite you, click subscribe to Buddhist Daily Wisdom. Not just to follow the channel, but to send out an energetic message: I choose to protect my energy. I no longer live from reflex. I begin living from awareness. Leave a comment as a grounding ritual: I protect my energy. I pause before I speak. I trust what stays after silence. Because when you write that, it's not just a commitment. It's an energetic password you send into the universe. And from that moment forward, the right things will begin finding their way to you, instead of you having to chase them. Share this video if you sense someone, another Gemini, is spinning in the whirlwind of decision, standing in the fog of the mind. Because you never know, maybe the moment they stumble upon this video is the very moment they avoid the mistake you almost made. These 3 days, you don't need to do anything big. Just stay small enough, still enough, not to get swept away. Because from that place of quiet, you'll begin to choose yourself again, not as a wandering wind, but as a wind that knows where it's going. No longer carrying leaves that belong to someone else. Gemini, you were born to learn, to inspire, to spread messages. You are the wind. But even the wind, without direction, can become a storm. And if you're still thinking, I'm self-aware enough not to make mistakes, then the real-life stories below will remind you, just one decision, made at the wrong time, can be enough to sweep away an entire empire you spent years building. Did you know Donald Trump is a Gemini? Born on June 14th. A master of communication, with an uncanny ability to ride the wave of public sentiment, but also, because he acts fast, reacts instantly, and speaks before digesting his thoughts, he has triggered major media crises. Especially during the pandemic and following the election results, some decisions made by Donald Trump, such as his controversial tweets, didn't just cost him public support. They made him the first U.S. president in history to be impeached twice within a single term. The question isn't whether he was right or wrong. The real question is, if there had been just one moment to pause and observe, could things have gone differently? On the other hand, we have another Gemini, also born on June 14th, rapper Kanye West, now known as Ye. A musical genius. A cultural icon. But also a textbook Gemini, a mind in constant motion, emotions rising faster than logic. He lost partnerships with major global brands, including Adidas, Gap, and Balenciaga, all because of unfiltered words. In one interview, he admitted, "I feel compelled to say whatever's on my mind, but I don't always know where it's coming from." And just a string of poorly timed statements wiped out billions of dollars in net worth in a matter of days. Kanye doesn't lack talent. What he lacked was the moment of pause before reacting. Then there's another famous Gemini, Johnny Depp, born on June 9th. A soulful, free-spirited artist. But also someone who fell into a highly publicized legal battle with his ex-wife Amber Heard. One that cost him roles, endorsements, and nearly the reputation he spent over 30 years building. It all began with what seemed like love, but was born out of wounds left unhealed. Geminis are often drawn to novelty, to that sense of soul connection. But sometimes, they don't take the time to ask their intuition, rather than their romantic ego, do I love this person, or am I trying to find a missing piece of myself through them? If Johnny had paused long enough to ask that question, perhaps the entire tragedy might have been avoided. One mistake in choosing a partner can reroute an entire career trajectory. However, Gemini is also known for their remarkable power to recover, if they learn to pause. Just look at Angelina Jolie, born on June 4th. She was once known as the wild child of Hollywood, famous for controversial actions, like wearing a vial of her ex's blood and engaging in chaotic relationships. But when she stepped into her awakening, through meditation, humanitarian work, and stepping back from the spotlight, she began to transform into a symbol of soft power and healing. What changed? Not her Gemini nature, but her ability to choose when to speak, and when to remain silent. When to act, and when to observe. That shift is what helped her evolve from a tabloid rebel into a humanitarian powerhouse. And finally, the story of Tupac Shakur, a musical prodigy born on June 16th. He had the heart of a poet, the mind of a philosopher, and the soul of a warrior. Tupac once said, "I just want to speak my truth before I no longer can." But that very urgency, the unresolved conflicts he let explode instead of alchemize, pulled him into a vortex of violence and ended his life at just 25. Tupac's death wasn't the result of a single misstep. It was a string of decisions made without pause, without someone nearby to say, just breathe. And if you're a Gemini navigating choices, swimming in ideas, caught in emotions that haven't settled, these stories are not meant to scare you. They're meant to remind you, talent won't save you from mistakes if you don't pause. Intelligence won't guarantee you're always right. But awareness, even just 1 minute of it, could save you from an entire year of missteps. If you see yourself in any of these people, leave a comment below. I choose to pause. I choose to protect my energy. Because sometimes, all it takes is one small act, one moment of not reacting, to save yourself from making the kind of mistake that could cost you, yourself. If you're still here, if you've listened to everything, if you've read every line, every wave of these warnings without looking away, then there's one thing I know for sure, you are no longer the same Gemini. No longer someone who just chases after thoughts. No longer a soul fragmented by endless options. No longer someone who tries to do everything right, only to lose the one thing that truly matters, inner clarity. From this moment on, you are no longer a gust of wind being blown around. You are someone who knows where the wind is going. You are no longer just a transmitter of information. You are someone who chooses intelligent silence. You no longer need to know more. You no longer need to prove anything. You only need to return to one truth. I choose to live true to myself. Not because of any outside pressure. Not to be validated. Not to be seen. But because it feels right within. The universe does not require you to always go the right way. The universe only asks you to pause when you realize you're on the wrong one. And if you're still reading this, then you've already paused at the exact right time. The 3 days from May 17th to 19th, they may seem like just numbers on a calendar. But in truth, they are a threshold. An invisible gateway. And if you cross it unconsciously, it could lead you into yet another long detour. But if you are still enough, brave enough not to decide when you're uncertain, then that very same gateway will lead you into a new cycle, a cycle of inner integration. Gemini, you don't have to choose between two paths. Because the real path is the one you walk when your mind is still. The Buddha said, not every fork in the road needs a decision. Some just need your stillness, and the light will separate itself from the shadow. Sometimes, not choosing is the wisest choice. And because you've paused. Because you've listened. Because you've been still enough to receive this, I invite you, as a final ritual of awakening, to click the subscribe button on Buddhist Daily Wisdom. Not to follow a channel. But to mark a turning point with the universe. I have chosen the light. I have chosen the truth. I have chosen not to repeat the old lesson. And if you are truly ready to step through the threshold, I invite you to write, below the video, a spiritual vow. A declaration you send into your new timeline. I choose stillness. I choose truth. I choose only what stays after silence. Because from the moment you write that, all things not meant for you will begin to dissolve. All that doesn't belong will gently fall away. And what remains, will be what truly deserves to stay. You don't need to force. You don't need to rush. You don't need to be completely certain. You only need to be still enough to hear the voice inside again. Because you, Gemini of the wind, are not weak. You've just lived too long in the noise and forgotten that within you lies a space so still, so bright, it could guide you through anything. And if today, even a part of you remembers that, then this journey has already fulfilled its purpose. I wish for you, in these next 3 days, not action, but non-action. So that everything can realign on its own. Like your soul's compass finally stops spinning, and points in one direction only. The one you no longer doubt. You are Gemini. You are the bearer of 2 streams of consciousness. But now, you are no longer torn. You are the one who unites light and shadow, to become you, whole and undivided. Share this video if you know another Gemini who's weary in the fog of uncertainty. Perhaps you are the unseen hand the universe is extending, to pull them home. And if you feel something quietly shifting in your heart right now, like a breeze, but no longer directionless, then I know. You've stepped into the other side of the fog. Welcome, awakened Gemini.